I'm excited to visit the great city of Shreveport.
On November 11th, the Robinson Film Center is proud to present the American cult classic, The Room, at 8 p.m. November 11th with a Q&A by the star, Greg Sestero, the author of The Disaster Artist, who is here with us right now. Welcome, Greg.
Oh, hi guys, how are you?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Have you heard anything about Shreveport prior?
I've heard the people are really cool, and all of them wear sunglasses at night, like that.
Yes,
So
that's us. Spot on.
You know, I've never been, and it's gonna be a hell of a night.
For people that have never been to like one of these showings of The Room in a theater, like, I mean, the audiences bring footballs, and that's part of the experience, isn't it? Sometimes people will toss the pigskin within the theater.
Yeah, they'll throw the football around, and it's pretty cool. You know, a dream of mine was always signing a football, and they'll bring footballs for me to sign, and my rule is, if I sign your football, you got to go out for a pass.
Yeah, Chris, throw him the ball. What are you doing?
In my family, you're what they call really good looking.
Okay.
How is it having Dave Franco, arguably the more handsome Franco, play you in a movie?
You know, when James brought it up, I thought it was a, really good choice. And Dave and I have a lot of similarities. We're both from the Bay Area. We both love Warriors basketball, and we both had to come into LA and work on strange, weird movies to kind of get started. And so he really understood and related.
So how long now has this movie been a part of your life?
Almost 20 years.
Golly.
We made it, came out in 2003. It didn't really pick up its cult success, I'd say, out until like 2009, 2010. And then it started screening in New York and London, and it started becoming a national, international thing. And then I didn't start writing The Disaster Artist until 2011.
What would you say is the moment when you realized that, oh, we've created something that is going to make everyone follow our every move?
I think it was when we sold out the Ziegfeld Theater in New York in 2010. It hadn't been done since the re-release of Star Wars.
Ooh,
Wow.
We were there as 1,200 people, and you walked in there and it was so loud, the interactions, people shouting at the screen. And having so much fun with the film. And a guy from the New York Times was recording the interaction, and he turned around and looked at me and said, "There's nothing really out there like this." I knew at that point there was something really special here, and I knew the movie wasn't good, obviously, but it was speaking to people in a way that I was trying to understand. And that's sort of where I got the idea to write the book, because I thought, if this movie connects with people, I think the story behind the making of this film, that could be a great movie in itself.
What's your weirdest Hollywood moment, Greg?
I would say the most surreal moment probably was at the Golden Globes. James Franco wins. We go down during the commercial break, and Tom Hanks comes running up to us.
Oh, man.
Says, "You guys are the inspiration for everybody watching at home tonight."
Wow.
And Steven Spielberg is sitting there staring at us with a glare that I can't tell if he's entertained or horrified. So that was pretty incredible. And then, of course, watching Tommy hit on Angelina Jolie didn't quite work out well.
What would you say is your next goal?
You know, a filmmaker that's giving people all kinds of unique entertainment, rare and fun, and original.
That's your next goal. And actually, you're touring film festivals right now with a movie that you wrote and directed. It's called Miracle Valley.
It's about inspired by a real life cult in the Arizona desert. Cults have always been something that have fascinated me, from the Manson cult, to Jim Jones. Full on did it. I produced, wrote, directed, starred, did the whole thing. And I did this living in the environment that I wrote the script in, that we filmed in.
Love that.
Would you consider, after coming to the Robinson and hanging out with us in Shreveport, possibly bringing your feature film to here so you can show it here?
I'd love to. Yeah, the Robinson Film Center looks awesome, so I'd love to.
Greg, you'll be there presenting The Room at the Robinson Film Center for all of your fans in Shreveport, and doing a Q&A as well. You're doing a sort of tour of this right now. How has the reception been for you? How fun has it been for you?
It's been great. So many people want to get out and do something fun. So many people have discovered The Room over the past year and a half. They want to see it with the crowd. I mean, after 20 years, I've realized there's nothing really else out there like The Room. There probably will never be anything like it again, because it was made from someone's mind who sees the world totally differently, who had the money and the power to make it their way. And a lot of times you have so many people involved giving other orders, things get changed. So the room was made with so much earnest passion. Nobody was known, whether it's really good or really bad. The bottom line, when you watch it, it has something to offer.
So finally, it's November 11th at the Robinson Film Center, 8 p.m. Greg, you'll be there presenting The Room.
If you come to the Robinson Film Center, be prepared, bring your sticky gloves. You're gonna be working, you're gonna be playing football.
Hey, I want a crossing route. I will run the route, and I want the pass from you, my friend.
Yep.
He's gonna drop it.
On November 11th, the Robinson Film Center is proud to present the American cult classic, The Room, at 8 p.m. November 11th with a Q&A by the star, Greg Sestero, the author of The Disaster Artist, who is here with us right now. Welcome, Greg.
Oh, hi, guys. How are you?
Oh, good. Hi, Greg. Oh, man, we're great. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to visit the great city of Shreveport. I've never been, and it's gonna be a hell of a night.
Have you heard anything about Shreveport prior?
I've heard the people are really cool, and all of them wear sunglasses at night, like that.
Yes,
so
that's us.
Spot on.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Well, we're looking forward to it. We want to talk about The Room, of course, and you have some other things that we want to talk about. A new movie that you've produced, written, directed, and a book, and all kinds of things that we'll talk about. But my first question, Josh, is
it's a question for me.
Yeah, well, it's a question for Greg. In my family, you're what they call really good looking.
Okay.
Right. And the question is, what's that like?
It's one of those things. It got me to be the quarterback of my football team. So football in the traditional sense didn't work out, but it got me to really know how to throw a spiral, which then in turn attracted a very peculiar vampire in San Francisco who wanted to teach him how to throw a football.
So your good looks led to the football scene in The Room. That's the genesis.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's a simple A to B. Perfect.
How tight would you say your spiral is?
I can get it about a good 30, 35 yard rope. And then my distance is about a 46, I'd say.
Damn.
I haven't been able to get past 46 yards. I think it has to do with hand size. I think a lot of, let's take Brett Favre, for example, he can pretty much palm the whole ball. But
yeah, his hand is massive.
Yeah, it's going to get you probably an extra 15. So I got in about 46 with the training, which isn't bad. But, I did get to show that off in The Room. I could only throw it 3 feet apart. So I was very frustrated, obviously. But, football is something that I love. And it's great that it's represented in The Room the way that it is.
So did you and Tommy ever have a football throwing competition to see who could throw it farther?
We would play catch mainly, and he would throw a couple nice spirals because he did learn over time. And he'd say, "Oh, you're jealous. You don't say nice throw. I see. You're not happy." So I spent a lot of time trying to teach him, and he actually, by 2007, 2008, he could throw the football pretty well. It's just in The Room, it was still in the learning phase.
Right. And of course, for people that have never been to like one of these showings of The Room in a theater, the audiences bring footballs, and that's part of the experience, isn't it? Sometimes people will toss the pigskin within the theater.
Yeah, they'll throw the football around. It's pretty cool. A dream of mine was always signing a football, and they'll bring footballs for me to sign. And my rule is, if I sign your football, you got to go out for a pass. So I've thrown a lot of completions to people who have never caught a football before in their entire life. And there's no greater feeling than throwing a 15-yard pass to, there's a girl who's never played football, never thrown a football. She caught it like a pro. And so we're making the world a better place by doing these screenings.
You truly are living the dream. That's pretty incredible.
Has anyone ever tried to catch the ball and it just slams right in their face?
So, well, actually, one of the funniest, I mean, it shouldn't be funny, but it was, experiences I had at a screening of The Room was in 2011 in Dallas. And there were all kinds of footballs there. I was tossing the football with the crowd on stage. There was somebody from the very back of the theater. We're talking the last row, took the football and threw it. And I watched it come in on the lights, traveling, coming in. And I'm like, that's getting closer. And Tommy's on the microphone. He doesn't see anything that's going on. The ball literally on a strike nails him in the face. Hits the mic, hits his face. He drops the mic. The entire crowd went silent. And Tommy was like, don't make big deal. My God, it's okay. It was just incredible. And it was caught on film.
But is it on YouTube somewhere?
It's on YouTube somewhere. Yeah. But somebody literally threw it from the back part of the theater. And it was, of course, I don't think it was Troy Aikman, but that person threw a strike. And it was, Tommy took it like a pro though and didn't complain. So yeah, there's footballs always flying at screenings of The Room.
Obviously, The Room has been a part of your life for a very long time now. I mean, we're aspiring filmmakers, and we know how you have to work on a project so long before it comes to fruition. The Room had this weird period of building its cult status. So how long now has this movie been a part of your life?
Almost 20 years. We made it, came out in 2003. It didn't really pick up its cult success, I'd say, out until like 2009, 2010. And then it started screening in New York and London, and it started becoming a national, international thing. And then I didn't start writing The Disaster Artist until 2011. So I'd say it's been almost like a full-time phenomenon for the past 10 years.
What would you say is the moment when you realized that, oh, we've created something that is going to make everyone follow our every move? Like cult status, basically.
I think it was when we sold out the Ziegfeld Theater in New York in 2010. It hadn't been done since the re-release of Star Wars.
Wow.
We were there as 1,200 people, and you walked in there and it was so loud, the interactions, people shouting at the screen and having so much fun with the film. And a guy from the New York Times was recording the interaction, and he turned around and looked at me and said, there's nothing really out there like this. And it was true. It was like, I don't even know what this is. It's not a movie, because people are screaming at the screen. They're interacting with it in a way that I hadn't seen before, because I hadn't seen Rocky Horror Picture Show yet. So I knew at that point there was something really special here, and I knew the movie wasn't good, obviously, but it was speaking to people in a way that I was trying to understand. And that's sort of where I got the idea to write the book, because I thought, if this movie connects with people, I think the story behind the making of this film, that could be a great movie in itself, because you have two unlikely friends who shared a common dream. That's all they had between them in different parts of their lives. And they pursued their dream and came up with something that, people still watch 20 years later. And what is that about? I mean, we all have comrades and friends that want to make music and want to team up together. And then when you do it and something like this comes about, I think that's a really fascinating story.
Was The Disaster Artist your first book that you ever wrote?
First thing I ever wrote was a sequel to Home Alone when I was 12. I went to Walt Disney World on vacation, and I loved it so much I didn't want to go back to school. I wanted to live in Disney World. And so when I got back home, I was really sad. And so I decided to take the two things that I love the most, Home Alone and Walt Disney World, and write a script in which Kevin McAllister, Macaulay Culkin, and I, as his older friend, fight off the bandits who are now janitors at Walt Disney World. So I went full on. I studied Disney World. I studied screenwriting. I studied all that. And I wrote a script in a few months, and I drew a cover, tracked down John Hughes's production company, and sent the script out. And I was truly feeling like that I was done with school. I was like, this movie's going to get made. I'm going to be in the next Home Alone. And that was going to be it. And so I got a letter back, and my script was sent back, which was a bummer. But in the pages was a handwritten note from John Hughes sharing his surprise. He was impressed, and he said, follow your dream. And I knew at that point making movies is what I wanted to do. And I just, eventually I figured I'd figure it out. But in that moment, I knew that that's what I wanted to pursue. And it took a while to get over the fact that Home Alone wasn't made. And it was kind of a stinger when they did make Home Alone 3 and didn't use my idea. But I just remember the feeling that I had writing that script. It was like I was never a great student, but in writing that script, I felt alive for the first time. And I thought, this is what I want to do. And so when the disaster artist idea came out, it was like I returned to that passion and started writing, and I became obsessed with telling the story.
Did you ever have any writer's block or anything like that when you started writing your book? Was it hard to kind of get all of those stories out?
I mean, I think there were so many stories and so many chapters, so to speak, that it was more about organizing and condensing those stories into something that tells a narrative. And I think every day I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and just with so many new ideas and dialogue and thoughts. And it was just an incredible experience getting to tell that story and work with Simon & Schuster, who's an amazing publisher, and give them something really that would surprise them, because the president of the company had no idea what The Room was, and he read the book and he was just so into it. He said, I want to know more about this story. This book needs to be read. It needs to be made into a movie. So once we got him on our side, I knew we had something that could work. But it was such a fun process. It was so challenging in so many ways that it taught me what it's like to have to work so hard and complete a project, and the reward that feels. And it just made me want to do more of that.
Was it almost an immediate reaction when the book came out that studios were like, hey, can we buy the rights to that to make a film?
So it started out with an agent who does a lot of book to film. He did No Country for Old Men and a few really big movies. He read the book because it was recommended to him by the president, and he really loved it. And he didn't know The Room either. It was not his thing, and he absolutely loved it, and he started representing it, and we were sending it out before every book even came out. And Sacha Baron Cohen's company was interested, Ben Stiller's company was interested, but it just kind of hung there. And then it wasn't until 3 weeks after the book came out that James Franco and Seth Rogen reached out. They had read it on the set of The Interview and thought, this movie has to get made. And I couldn't believe when I got the call. It was like, that was the goal and the dream from day one. And it was like, finally, it looked like it was happening. And after the Home Alone disappointment, I didn't want to get my hopes up. But it was just an incredible reward, and really believing in something and striving for something big and having other people see it.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, when you were writing The Disaster Artist, how much of that were you sharing with Tommy? Were you keeping it secret from him? Oh. At what point did you let Tommy know, hey, I'm doing this?
There is a chapter that's called You Have Some Secrets. But he was the first person I told when I had the idea to write the book, and I'd interview him. I was on tour with him, so I was constantly studying and, rekindling all those experiences we had and the dialogue. And so he was the first person I told. I didn't really have him read much because I knew he's very much into like taking over projects and making it all about his ideas. So I was like, the only way this story is going to work is if it has perspective from both sides and has honesty and the good times and the bad times. So, I'd share a little bit here and there, but it was really, I was thinking bigger in the sense of reaching people who had never heard of The Room, people that would be willing to read a nonfiction book and get lost in this story and appreciate it.
Man. So what did Tommy think of the book when it came out?
He said, people seem to like it, they call it Red Bible, I think people hold the book so tight. They love this book. Why? I don't know. So he said he approves like 45%. Is
that a lot for him?
Yeah, I mean, it's in and out really. And then once we got the call from James Franco and Seth Rogen to make it into a film, he quickly started to get on board. But
why go with Rogen and Franco? What did they have that the other ones didn't?
They were the most interested. They like, James really related to the story, and he was somebody who just was absolutely obsessed with it and just wanted to make this film. And that's what you need to get a movie made. You need somebody who just believes in the story so much. And he was the one far and away that, got it from all angles.
How is it having Dave Franco, arguably the more handsome Franco, play you in a movie?
It was interesting. I had, when I was writing the book, I thought of Javier Bardem as Tommy, and I thought of Ryan Gosling as Greg. It's back 2011. So I really liked Dave in 21 Jump Street, and I thought, when James brought it up, I thought it was a really good choice. And Dave and I have a lot of similarities. We're both from the Bay Area. We both love Warriors basketball, and we both had to come into LA and work on strange, weird movies to kind of get started. And so he really understood and related to what I had to go through. I thought he was, really great to work with, and, really had a lot of fun with the part.
Did you give him any advice on how to play you?
We met and had sushi for like 4 hours and talked all about auditioning and acting. And the big thing question he had for me was, there any hope or chance that you thought this movie could go anywhere? And my answer was, of course, no. But if you needed to use that, possibly, that I had hope for it, then go ahead for the motivation. Because I think, the character of Greg, it's hard to, unless you read the book, it's hard to understand what's he doing there. Does he want to be in this film? Does he believe in this film? And if he doesn't believe in it, then why is he doing it? And I think to an outside audience who's not in the movie industry, it's a lot easier if Greg is a believer in this project.
Yeah. Well, there's very few people, relatively speaking, on this earth who have seen themselves played on a big screen. So that's got to be like, it seems like you have a series of like these amazing dream come true things happening in your life. And I mean, I wanted to ask you what that was like, seeing someone play you, but you basically just answered it. I mean, is that lost on you that not many people have had that experience?
Yeah, I think it's payback for Home Alone. I think I was supposed to play, Kevin McAllister's good friend, and obviously John Hughes and 20th Century Fox didn't see that. So it's like, we're going to turn it around and turn your other story into a movie. It was, again, I had really high hopes for the story in the book, and it was just, there's no greater reward than having people see it and take your work and make it into a film. I think it's something that we all dream about. So I was stoked that people also really liked it.
What would you say is your next goal? What is the next thing that you want to hit?
I would say the next thing I want to do is I want to be, a filmmaker that's giving people all kinds of unique entertainment. I look at somebody like John Carpenter, M. Night Shyamalan. They're giving people just entertainment that is unique and rare and fun, and original. And I think that's sort of the direction I love to go. And I love to be a filmmaker along those lines, that every year, every couple of years, I give you guys a whole new experience that's original, comes straight from my mind, and it's thought out, and it's something that you guys can talk about and won't forget. So just being a true raw filmmaker, making, passionate, sincere work.
Strange fact, M. Night Shyamalan is here in Shreveport filming a movie about Caddo Lake. And if you're from Shreveport and Caddo Lake, it's just a dumpy, swampy area. So he must have something up his sleeve if he's here.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point about, wanting to make these films, and that's your next goal. And actually, you're touring film festivals right now with a movie that you wrote and directed. It's called Miracle Valley. And what can you tell us about that?
It's about inspired by a real life cult in the Arizona desert. Cults have always been something that have fascinated me. Anywhere from the Manson cult, to Jim Jones. Why do people join a cult? I mean, usually you should be able to see right through it. What's the catch? But it's fascinating to see somebody willing to see through that and join, and then the fallout that comes from that. And my belief is you can never really leave a cult, and that's what their goal is to imprint your mind. And so I made a movie in 2017 called Best Friends. It was a noir thriller that starred Tommy and I learned a lot from making that film. And I thought, I really wanted to do something new, and I want to get into the horror thriller genre. I really enjoyed Get Out. I really love 70s horror. The Hills Have Eyes, Halloween, stuff that has a great villain and a great score. And I thought, I'm going to move to the desert. I'm going to get away from it all, and I'm going to come up with something fresh and new, and just try to challenge myself. And so I full on did it. I produced, wrote, directed, starred, did the whole thing. And I did this living in the environment that I wrote the script in, that we filmed in. So it was like a true, just immerse myself in this environment in the desert. And, we've tested the film, and audiences really seem to respond to it. We've done a few festivals. We're doing Fright Fest in the UK on October 30th. I'm doing Tallgrass Film Festival here in Kansas, and we did Salem Horror Festival. So we're going to be going to Iceland in January, and a few other countries. So I think horror is a genre that people will accept and get behind, regardless if you have, big names in it or not. It's a genre. Horror is a genre in itself that people want to support. So it was a great, it was a great shot to go into a new genre and try to make a splash.
I'm obsessed with cults as well. So
me too.
I would love to know when this thing drops so I can actually watch it. I mean, yeah, that sounds.
I'm going to start a cult, Greg. If you want to,
just so we can watch it.
Well, if you want to get on the email list, I can put you on there.
Let's do your own cult. Hey, I mean, you got the bandana, you got the look. You could be the preacher.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a Santa Claus mushroom cult if you need any inside information, but I'll put you.
Now I know why M. Night Shyamalan's there. It's starting to make sense.
Yeah.
Greg, you're living the lifestyle, right? You're touring with your own movie. You have one of the most notable films of the 21st century. What level of fame do you feel like you're at?
It's funny. Fame. It's like I've never. It's never something that's affected me. I mean, there's times, I'll get recognized, and it'll be interesting, because I always think, like, how did you guys find out about it? Why do you like the film? And so I'm almost more enamored with fans or people that come up to me as they are, possibly meeting me, because it's such a bizarre film and success that it's sort of like we're connected. Like, I don't exist without you guys. And so I always appreciate it that people just even show up to see this film. So I've always been somebody who's just really like low key, and I'm really all about the work. I mean, to me, what means the most is if the crowd loves the film and they got entertainment out of it and they leave and want to tell their friends about it. I'm kind of, more in the raw sense of just the pure art of filmmaking, and making sure whatever you give your audience, it's 100%, you gave 110% of your passion, your heart. The worst thing for me is like someone leaving a movie and thinking that it didn't deliver what they hoped it would, and they didn't feel like there was enough, passion put into it. So for me, if I'm lucky enough to have fans, which is great, and enough fame to where I can get things made so I can continue making movies, that I feel like is what's most important to me. But I only look at it as like, when I'm in that theater, I just want to make sure the crowd leaves with an experience.
What would you say your process is as a director and an actor going into a film? So you directed a feature film. That's not easy to do. What was your process of getting yourself ready to get into that?
I think it was a great advantage to live in the environment that I was writing the script, and I knew we were going to film there, because I'd walk those streets every day. I'd be in that room every day. So I knew how the scenes could look and what they looked like in my mind. I knew where the window would come in. I knew where the blood would hit, where the axe would go into the person's head, for example. I could see all that as I was writing it. So when we were on the set and the cameras are there, I'd already seen it in my mind a bunch of times. So it wasn't like I had to write the script and find the location and find the actors. I sort of knew who was going to be playing the part, what it could look like, what the lighting could be like. So that was like combining 3 steps into one. And I think that was a big advantage, because, a lot of times making films, you don't always have the luxury of getting prep. And I had enough time to where in my mind, I could work out the scenes.
I think that comes across in The Room, right? You can tell there's an obsessive, immersive something that happened with Tommy, and probably you, since y'all were so wrapped up together in making this film. I really feel like it comes across on the screen. it's not just this building of cult fans that have happened, but also Hollywood people have been drawn to this. There's some kind of genuine, we got to make this happen thing that it comes across on the screen. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. I mean, after 20 years, I've realized there's nothing really else out there like The Room. There probably will never be anything like it again because it was made from someone's mind who sees the world totally differently, who had the money and the power to make it their way. And a lot of times you have so many people involved giving other orders, things get changed. So The Room was made with so much earnest passion. Nobody was known. You were, going 110%, shooting for the stars. And I think that's where the best work comes from, whether it's really good or really bad. The bottom line, when you watch it, it has something to offer.
Giving 110%.
I have a question about Tommy. Is Tommy French, a UFO, or a genius?
I think he's from New Orleans.
That's what I've heard. You can be all three of those things if you're from New Orleans.
If you're New Orleans, yeah.
Well, it's funny because the next script that I've been writing, I wrote it during quarantine, is a UFO abduction story.
So fun.
So that's
cults,
funny.
Abductions, that's like right up my alley. I love all those things.
Yeah, because I've always, the joke has always been The Room is a movie made by an alien who just studied human activity, went back to their planet and then made it. So Tommy very possibly could be a UFO.
Yeah, there is. It's like a study of human behavior from an alien perspective, someone who doesn't know about human behavior. It's remarkable. Okay, Josh, I have some more questions.
Go for it.
This is another multiple choice question, Greg. What do you call the end pieces on a loaf of bread? You call them a heel, a butt, the rind, the end? What do you call them?
Crust, I guess.
Crust. Okay. All right.
What do you call them?
I call them the butt.
What? I don't call them. What do I call them?
What do you call them?
I'm asking my wife. What do I call them?
End pieces.
End pieces.
End pieces.
Very basic.
Boring.
Very elegant. Very elegant.
I had a butt.
Yes,
I had a
hold my
butt.
pinky out when
I
I
had a
have
butt
one.
sandwich today. Actually, turkey on butt toast.
These are very good questions.
Yeah. What's your weirdest Hollywood moment, Greg, that you can share with us?
I would say the most surreal moment probably was at the Golden Globes. James Franco wins. We go down during the commercial break and Tom Hanks comes running up to us.
Oh man.
Says, "You guys are the inspiration for everybody watching at home tonight."
Wow.
And Steven Spielberg is sitting there staring at us with a glare that I can't tell if he's entertained or horrified. So that was pretty incredible. And then, of course, watching Tommy hit on Angelina Jolie didn't quite work out well. But I'd say that was probably, the moment that I look back on.
Man,
What is Tommy's superpower?
I think he has a way of, feeling out, decoding very strange things. For example, I used to give him rides to the airport years ago, and he was being a pest one time and yelling about this and complaining about this. And I'm like, good Lord. So he left his keys in my car as he flew to San Francisco. And I found his keys and I'm like, karma, he's not getting these back. And so he called me and he's like, hey, I think I left my keys in your car. I can't find them. And I'm like, nah, can't find them anywhere. Sorry. So 6 months goes by, never brought up the keys again, never discussed it. I hid them under my mattress just in case I needed them for whatever reason. Again, friendships can be very weird. And then he calls me early one morning, which is strange because he normally wakes up at like 2 p.m. every day. And I answer, and it's 8 a.m. and he's like, hello, how are you? And I'm like, good, how are you? And he goes, I have a very strange dream about you. I was like, okay. He's like, remember I lost these keys? Yeah. And he's like, well, I have dream I find them under your mattress.
Whoa.
Like, dude, I acted all cool, and I'm like, oh, really? That's crazy. And then like a few weeks later, I'm like, oh, I found your keys. Get them out of my place. I don't know what kind of omen is there. So he has really, he's in touch with, a frequency that we don't know about. And that's something that I've come across that has always been very baffling.
Do you guys believe in like ghosts?
Yeah, one time we were sharing a hotel room in London, and he's like, oh my God, we have ghosts in this place. I see ghosts. He's like, he left bathroom, and I was like, oh man. So we definitely believe in ghosts. Took a few ghost tours in New Orleans, took an underground catacomb tour in Paris. So we're definitely intrigued by the unknown.
Have you ever experienced anything that was unexplainable?
I've never seen a ghost. I think of all my studies with UFOs now over the past year writing this new script, there's just as much thoughts on not believing as believing, whether they come from above or below. It's just one of those things. I mean, we're all in search of that proof and that moment that turns the corner, but so far it's always he said, she said at this point.
What do you think about the military releasing all that footage of UFOs?
I thought it was really weird because it was a couple years ago I decided I was going to write a UFO script, and I was like talking to all my friends, building up UFO stuff, and then boom, like it just became all in the press and talking about it. My mom would even say to me, what did you do? Like all of a sudden now all I hear is about UFOs. So it's very random timing. And it was kind of the same thing when I thought about writing a movie about a cult. All of a sudden cults were big in the news with Nexium and all that stuff. Yep. So I don't know. And then Home Alone, a new Home Alone's coming out. So I don't know.
Well, what's your next movie so we can be prepared for whatever you're going to bring upon us?
The next thing I have planned after the UFO script is a really bizarre experience I went through a few years back. It's going to be a social thriller. It's sort of the bookend to The Disaster Artist and The Room. It's sort of a true life experience I went through that was truly, truly insane. So this one is based on an experience I had that looks into, like I said, social thriller, looks into fame, looks into the underbelly of a lot of this stuff. That's a pretty wild story. So that's what I have planned for right now.
Would you consider, after coming to the Robinson and hanging out with us in Shreveport, possibly bringing your feature film to here so you can show it here?
I'd love to. Yeah, the Robinson Film Center looks awesome. So I'd love to.
Because I would really love to see it.
We've got great tax credits here in Louisiana.
Oh, that is true as well.
Great infrastructure.
Yeah, if M. Night Shyamalan came here and it's good enough for him, I mean, can you?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to tell you my experience with The Room. I really sort of ask you if these are the kind of story, if you hear these stories all the time, if there's a typical The Room experience that you get from your fans or people that have seen it. For me, it started coming on my radar probably, I would say about 2015, I would say. And I had heard that it was this crazy movie that was so bad, it was great. And like, you couldn't even get it anywhere. People were trading tapes. And, I said, well, how old is it? And there's like, oh, it's from like 2003. Well, I have to see this. So I decided to watch it by myself at home. And I had to turn it off after 30 minutes. It was so bad. There were so many sex scenes in the first 30 minutes. I was like, I can't, no. Well, a week later, I convinced a group of friends. It's like, guys, have you heard of this movie? They're like, man, I've heard of that, yada, yada. And we decided to watch it with a group of friends. Greg, it's one of my favorite movie watching experiences ever. Like watching it with people who are willing to laugh for any reason at this film is such an enjoyable experience that I'm so pumped to come see it at the Robinson Film Center with a group of people who have already obsessed about it. I can't stress enough how fun it was watching it with my friends. Do you hear these kind of stories from people?
Yeah, you can't really watch it alone because there's the magic doesn't come alive. Once you get it with the group, it just brings people together in a way that not many films do.
That's so true. I mean, that was literally my experience. I for some reason I was compelled to turn it off, and I knew this had to be done with a group of friends. And it's
I haven't
my
seen
favorite
it with a group of friends. I saw it alone, and I have not seen it in a theater. So this will be my first time in a theater and with people.
What are you, a psycho?
Yes.
Freaking psycho. Yeah, well, we're looking forward to that. I know that we'll have a lot of fans at the Robinson Film Center that will be prepared with their spoons and their footballs and whatever they want to bring. What's the line you hear the most from fans of The Room?
I think you're probably, oh, hi, Mark, then you're tearing me apart, Lisa. Then people are very strange these days. So they're all, it's very quotable. I don't know why, but it's just a movie that lives in your head.
Other than Tommy, do you keep touch with anyone else that is associated with the production?
Yeah, everybody's, really cool. We're all on good terms, and we're all kind of amazed that anything has happened with this film.
Finally, for me, I want to know, other than Tommy Wiseau, who are some of your acting heroes?
I'd say probably Harrison Ford is up there. I really like Tom Hardy recently, and Marlon Brando's great. And I'm trying to think who else. I enjoy some of Tom Cruise's work. It's really out there and kind of wild. And always delivers something in his films, and that's what I hope to do.
He always breaks something in his films.
Yeah.
His leg or something else.
He's a crazy man. I
Yeah,
can't believe he does the things he does on the camera. He's a superhero.
Thank you so much for making the time.
Hey, man.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you.
It was fun for us. So we look forward to meeting you in person when you get to town.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to it.
Have fun in Kansas.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a great Halloween, and I look forward to seeing you guys.
All
Yes,
right, man.
sir.